All right, so we've just gone live. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you're coming from. We're going to give it a couple minutes to get everyone welcome, get everyone involved, see how many people join in. I'm here with Clinton and Jared. We'll let them talk about their causes in a little bit. For now, just make sure everything's working. Make sure if your sound isn't working or if the video's not working, shoot a message into the chat, and Rebecca or Chad or myself will help you get that sorted.
Awesome.
So basically today, we won't get started just yet, guys, but we'll be learning a little bit about what Jared and Clinton do, what their causes are, how they use DipJar. Both of them are very different, so we'll be talking on points that different organizations can do different things with DipJar. There's no right or wrong answer. As long as you're being creative and being successful, then it works and it's great.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Emily. Sounds and looks good. That's great. That's what we like to hear for a webinar. Good morning, June.
It's great to see June.
Great to see people jumping on the chat. Make sure you guys ask questions throughout the whole thing. We'll have people answering DipJar questions in the chat. If you have questions for Jared or Clinton, we'll be answering them as well. All right, so we're going to get started now. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We're really excited to have Clinton and Jared here. We've got Jared from Dollar for Portland and Clinton from the DipJar choir, the DipJar Children's Choir. I'm going to let Jared give a little 60-second spiel first on what his cause is about and go from there.
So Dollar for Portland, we're a nonprofit. We help local families pay overwhelming medical expenses. So how that works for us is we get people to sign up for $1 a month. Every month you get a video, tells a story of where your dollar goes, who it helps. Then at the end of the month, you get a follow-up video, shows the impact of our community. So we have thousands of people that sign up for $1, and we give 100% of the funds to local families to pay off medical expenses. And DipJar is another great thing that we do as well.
Cool. Thanks, Jared. Clinton, do you want a quick elevator pitch on what you do?
Absolutely. My name's Clinton. I'm the tour leader for the DipJar Children's Choir. We're a traveling children's choir with children from the countries of Kenya and Uganda. And we travel to churches all across the nation, really just leading people in worship, hopefully bringing them joy, hope, and love. And our dream is to connect them with the beautiful people of East Africa, with our children. And awesome. So one of the ways that we do that is with DipJar. We're able to raise funds through a really neat way. So glad to be here.
I love it. We're glad to have both you guys here. Thank you so much for giving us your time and your expertise. So as you guys can hear, both Jared and Clinton, they run very different nonprofits. There's really no cookie cutter, cardboard cutout of people who should be successful with DipJar. It can be anyone and everyone. So to get started, we'll start with Jared first again. Just give me a quick explanation of how you use DipJar and how it's benefited your fundraising and your cause.
So how we have been using DipJar, I mean, we've done, we've done events, we've done raffles and all that, but our kind of constant with DipJar is partnering with local shops, coffee shops, breweries, pizza places, like any retail place that'll have us. And we just ask them to post up the DipJar for a couple weeks and offer some sort of promotion for anybody that donates. So like I can show you some examples, little like baby doll pizza in Portland. So if you dip, you get a free slice of pizza, Water Avenue coffee, breweries, anything. And we just print up these little cards and we give them to the business, and they put the DipJar out. We have info cards, and they just kind of educate their customers on who we are, what we do. And it's pretty cool because we don't even have to have like a physical presence there. We can just say, we can put it all in the business. We make it pretty easy for them. We print up the cards, we give them info cards, we kind of educate the staff. And people come in and they see the DipJar and immediately they want to know what it is. And then they have the staff kind of tell them what Dollar for Portland is. And people dip and they get free stuff. So that's kind of the big thing that we do that I think is maybe a little different, but it works. And it's kind of, we have 6 dip jars now, and they're all at different places around town, just kind of collecting donations. So it's pretty sweet.
Really, really cool. So I'll ask you one question this is a question that's come up in a lot of my conversations with people who want to do well with DipJar and want to get into businesses. How do you find the conversations with businesses when you're trying to put a DipJar? How receptive are people? I think that's one of the questions that Emily's just asked as well.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is make it easy for the business. A lot of the places we're going to, like, I don't know if you know anything about Portland, but like we're coffee and beer town. So and there's like a pretty cool community in Portland. But I think that it could work anywhere because you have a cool, dip jar that a lot of people haven't seen, and you have an incentive for donors, and it doesn't really cost the business much to give you, a free latte for somebody that signs up. So I always what I do is I send out an initial email, or if I'm in the coffee shop, I'll just ask, who can I talk to, the owner or the manager or whatever. And I lay it out for them exactly what I just described. Say, hey, we're going to print up these little things, make it super easy for you guys. And they're always super open. I don't know if I've ever been told no, to be honest. People do it. If you make it easy for them, it's not like they're giving away money. It's always hard to get cash, but it's pretty easy to get product. And it's not like they're giving away like 500 lattes a day or something like that. You know what I mean? So I always just say, like, make it easy, and just talk to the right person, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's been fairly easy for me to get into any place that we've pursued. So
cool. That's really interesting. So calling the right person is key, but then you go into the conversation with a bit of plan and of what you're going to say, how easy it is for them, what you're going to do.
Yeah. And then, it's always like people want to be a part of a winning team, like they if you tell them, hey, we had it at this event, we had it at this business, we had it at this, it's like, it kind of builds momentum for them to say yes, because they're like, well, I've literally said to people, like, everybody's doing this. You got to do it. And like, it works. People are on board. And again, it's not, I don't think it's a huge ask. Another like key thing for it is these little cards. It does say, like, so if you dip, if you donate to Dollar for Portland, it's a free slice of pizza on your next visit. So it brings people into their business. Like, they want people to come back. If they were just giving away free slices right then and there, it would probably be a harder sell. But if they can give somebody this and know that they're going to come back, it's a win-win,
Yeah, that's key. All right, awesome. Thanks for that. There's just a couple of questions from people in the chat for you, Jared. William just wanted to know if you have any security issues at the coffee shop. I think he means, has anyone ever tried to steal the dip jar? Have there been any?
No, we've never had anything like that. They're plugged in by the counter. They're not just like, so like when you go up into a coffee shop, you're going to the front desk or the counter, and it's usually sitting right there. So the staff are pretty darn close to it. They're plugged in, like, and honestly, if somebody steals it, like, they can only donate to $4 with it. So I don't know, like, I've never had an issue with that at all. And we have these out and about all the time.
Awesome. Cool. That's what we like to hear. And Kimberly and Emily have asked, and I'll get Clinton, when we move on to you for your answer as well, I'll get you to touch on this as well. What do you set your dip jars to? What's your preferred amount?
So mine is $5. I always have it at $5 because that's about what all these things cost, a pint of beer, a latte, a sliced pizza. So people feel like they're basically pre-buying something that they, you know what I mean? So that's been my thing with that strategy. The strategy of retail shops and coffee shops and all that has been $5. And if we do raffles and all that stuff, then that's a different story. Another thing, everybody now, I swear, has these trampoline parks that pop up, Sky High and Sky Zone or whatever. Those places crush it. Get them to do a free jump hour. It doesn't cost them anything, and they make these little free jump passes, and if they donate $5, they can get a free jump hour. We've had a few do that, and they do really, really well.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. Trampoline's the way to go.
Trampoline parks, man, I'm telling you. And I know that they're everywhere. Do you guys have trampoline parks where you're at?
Oh, yeah. They're
Go in there. Clean up.
They're on every corner just about. So, and kids. I mean, when you have kids there, you make it makes it even
it's
better.
a bunch of like families coming in, and if they know, they know they're going to come back. Like it's a pretty good one.
Cool.
That's cool.
All right, Jared, thank you. That was a awesome answer, great explanation of what you guys do. Clinton, I'll pass the same question on to you. Just how do you use your DipJar, and how has it been beneficial for you?
Yeah, so the major way that we fund our organization is through the events with our choir. So during the time that our kids are singing, we accept a kind of a love offering. That's the only way that we're funded. It's kind of how we get city to city, state to state. And so our biggest gap in our funding was people that come to our events and they don't carry cash, they don't carry checks, which is a lot of people. And so this is a way that we're trying to be intentional of kind of like harvesting those credit and debit card donations. And so at every event, we set them up kind of near kind of a store area that we have, and then there's a booth that talks more about our organization. And so we set them up, and from the stage, I'm always sharing how people can give. And so I always take a DipJar on stage with me, unplugged, but I explain to people like, hey, this is a DipJar. If you're like me, I don't carry cash, I don't carry checks, but you still want to give, you still want to be a part, you can give tonight. And so we set the three up. Kind of location is always key for us when it comes to mass events, because there's a mass influx and there's a mass, exit. And so we have to be really intentional about where we put our DipJars, and that if there's any, I guess bogging or something where the line's not moving or the people aren't moving, then people are going to immediately, divert from giving. And so we do that. We're pretty much like opposite of Jared. We're all event driven. So it gives people just the ability to give to our organization if they didn't bring, that cash or check. And so to kind of answer the question about what we set ours at, our lowest one is $25. We have 3 DipJars. And so we do a $25, a $40, and a $60. And so when we first got them, we kind of did some research, just kind of changed the amounts per event, kind of to what we thought. And then as people started to dip in the same DipJar more consistently, it kind of changed the way that we set those up to hopefully harness more donations.
Cool. Awesome. Just in the chat, I'm reading a couple of people having issues with their video freezing. Just hit refresh and it should be fine. And we had Sue didn't get the answer to Emily's question, which was about what they set the amount to. So Clinton just touched on that. Jared, can you just 5 seconds mention what you set your jars to again, please?
Oh yeah, I set mine to $5. $5 at the stores and all that.
Great. Sue had another question, which I think is aimed for Jared. How many DipJars did you start with? Because 6 is a expensive investment, which it is.
Yeah, I started with 1. And I waited until it paid for itself, and then I bought another one, and I waited till it paid for itself, and I bought another one. So I think once I got the third one, it was like, okay, these work, and then I bought 3 more. So yeah, I mean, I just started out with 1 and it worked. But honestly, like if you have businesses like Dollar for Portland, we already had a lot of businesses that worked with us. So once we got the DipJar, we'd already worked with some of these coffee shops and breweries and all that. So I could just say, hey, like we have the coolest new way to give. You need to put this up in your shop, and they're already like familiar. So I'm sure that Clinton and everybody who's listening, if you're running nonprofits, like you already have partners that you're working with, that it would be a pretty easy ask to start with those people,
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
And I would touch on that, Lloyd, if I could. Just
please.
when we started with 3, and even for us, we were kind of like, is this investment going to be worth it? Is it not? And really, into about 3 months of having our dip jars, we wish we had probably 3 more at this point. And so, like, I know I definitely get, that, like Jared, you have to pay for itself as you move, especially as a nonprofit. But we questioned big time whether it was going to be an adequate investment, and it has definitely paid off. So
awesome. We had another question from Mary. Where do you suggest the dip jars are placed, registration or by the bar? Just get you guys to give a quick 20-second answer on what you think is appropriate.
So for me, if we're doing dip jar at a shop, it's always like right at the front desk where they're ordering food, wherever they're ordering the coffee or beer or whatever. And if we're doing like raffles and events, I literally, like last night we were at an event and I have the battery pack and I just put that in my back pocket and I walk around with it. And I'll just like all volunteers and stuff. I'll just go up to tables, be like, yo, this is what we're doing. Buy a raffle ticket. This is, set the dip jar on the table and just get in people's faces. Like they're not. It's not like. When you're doing a big fun event and you're giving away stuff and people are doing, it's not like you're bothering people. You know what I mean? People want to know like what's going on and how they can get involved in the raffle or whatnot. So it's not some like weird thing. If you have volunteers that are outgoing, like I just put that battery pack in my back pocket and walk around the shop. So
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. For us, kind of going back to the placement, is we have to just analyze every place that we go into. We're going into a new church or venue every 2 or 3 days. So kind of a part of our setup, I'm just looking at where's everyone coming in and where's everyone going out. And I don't want to, create a block on, the move of traffic. I want my setup to be where people go to it. And so it's just key. You just, people want to give and they're happy to give, but if they have to wait to give, most likely they're not willing to do that, or if it's an inconvenience to them. So I just try to make sure that when people give, they can move right on out and the line just moves and moves. So
awesome. Thank you. So we're getting a ton of questions getting fired through, and we will come back to them all. I love that you guys are asking questions. We're going to move on quickly to my next question, and then I think it's going to tie into to Emily's question a little bit as well. So you guys, you've touched on it a little bit. Clinton, you mentioned that with the pricing, you've done a bit of experimenting and figuring out what works for you. So I'll get you to start with this question. Could you just touch on a little bit more what kind of experimenting you did with amounts, placement, things like that?
Yeah, so we actually kept a spreadsheet, and we would put the event and our 3 dip jars, what they were at, and how many were dipped in each one, so that we could kind of visually see our numbers. And so we really set out, we thought that people would only want to give $5, $10. And so that was kind of we started at like 10, 20, and I think it was like 30 or 40, somewhere in there. It was a lot lower. But we were finding that more people were wanting to give more money. Like the $10 one was hardly ever being dipped in, which was odd to us because we figured, people would want to give more. And so we just slowly, and it took, part of it was just kind of a leap of faith. It's just kind of like, we'll see if this works. It could backfire on us and we could get a lot less, or it could go well. And so as we noticed the numbers of people wanting to dip 25 and 40 and then double dipping, a lot of people were double dipping the 25. They wanted to give 50. And so with that, we knew that we could bump up a little higher. And so that's when we went 25, 40, 60. And I know that's probably another question, but we really encourage people to double dip. Like it's kind of something fun that we do, and we celebrate double dippers. We give them a little sticker if they double dip. Yeah, and so and so it's really paid off for us. And where at first I thought that people would want to give less, the more bold we are, the more bold people are as far as their giving goes.
I love that. The sticker is awesome. The idea is awesome. I think donors appreciate not really having to think. It can be kind of awkward if someone says, donate what you think is appropriate. And then you go, do I seem too cheap? Do I seem overly generous? But if you tell them what the amount is, it really makes life easier. And to touch on what you were saying, about being bold and taking a risk. For those of you listening, if you want to set DipJar to a higher amount and you think that it might be a risk, just try it for a week. Worst case scenario, you have a slightly lower week, you go back to what was working. Best case scenario, you completely revolutionize your fundraising and you raise a ton more money. So it's worth the risk, I think. And you can definitely do it temporarily and figure out what works for you, which I think is what you were doing, Clinton.
Absolutely. Yeah, we realized could it benefit us, and it did. Now we wouldn't go back the other way. We're continuing to think of, should we go higher at some events.
That's awesome. And I love that sticker idea. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Jared, can you touch on it if you did much experimenting and changing things around?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, listen to Clinton. I think I gotta put my dip jars up. But I mean, we've been doing 5 just because, like I said, that's kind of what the cost of what we're giving away is. So I feel like it's an easy ask. I always try to create the easy ask, but it's when we do events, I used to do $5 for a raffle ticket. But we started doing $10, and then you could get 5 raffle tickets for $40. And there's so many people that are dipping for $40 so they can get more raffle tickets. So we didn't do a ton of testing. We just have always set it at the $5. And then when we do events, we usually have 2 dip jars at an event, and it's like there's 2 different levels. And obviously if you give more, it's like more incentive, but we haven't done a ton of testing. We need to.
Yeah. Well, experiment, get back to us, and we can tell people how well it's gone for you.
Yeah. The one thing that we're doing that'll be a little different is we actually got and it just shows all the different types of businesses you can partner with. There's a flooring company. They do sell hardwood floors and carpet and whatever. And when people are going in and buying flooring, they're spending thousands of dollars, So we had, we're in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a dip jar, and it's $100. We're going to have it set at, $100. And if they dip, they get $100 off their purchase because they're buying so much. It's basically, the business is giving them a discount, but it just shows you can do breweries, coffee shops, flooring. You can even go to retail, shopping stores or whatnot. People are usually down. So that's one thing. I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, the world is your oyster. Talk to as many people as you can, try as many things as you can, because one day you'll find the one thing that clicks for your particular organization and you'll make a killing.
The beauty of it too is we went from, we put that 60 up in the middle of an event. So we just had a break of where people were occupied. And I was just let's change this now and see what happens. And it benefited us. So that's the beauty, I think, of DipJar, because I can just log in on my phone, change the amount, and it takes, less than 5 minutes for it to update itself. And then we were able to raise a lot more money. So I think it can definitely be done in the moment if you feel that you're in an event and people have no problem just dip, and you're like, what would they do the same thing at $5 more? Do it, see what happens.
Yeah, I think once people are willing to dip their credit card into a dip jar, the amount is almost unimportant. In their mind, they're donating to a good cause, and the amount is just, the variable, really.
Sure.
So Emily had a question for you, Clinton, but I'm sure Jared might have an answer for this as well. Emily specified for higher giving amounts, but for any amount, how do you turn DipJar donors into repeat donors or sign them up for annual giving campaigns?
I mean, that's one way that we could see that we could grow, we could do better. DipJar becomes a conversation piece for us. And so we always have one of our staff standing near the dip jars. They're always manned to kind of fill some of those conversations, not only to help people who maybe not understand how to do it, but to fill those conversations. If we fill someone out, that's wanting to donate, maybe even more than the max of $60, we have that person there, and they can then turn the conversation to myself. And then we can just get their contact information. Unfortunately, the information that you get from a credit card is not, there's no contact information there unless they request the receipt and you're able to provide that. But really, it's being intentional about those who are coming, having conversations with them, and just being available for those people who want to be a part of it even more. And when that's the case, we just take the right steps of getting their information, and then the follow-up of saying, hey, great talking to you. What are you thinking about being part of, what do you have in mind as far as how you'd like to further support us? And then we can move them into another avenue of supporting. But it generally has to come from those conversations.
Cool. Thank you. Jared, do you have any points to add to that?
I mean, nobody, like, for us, nobody dips without getting an info card. So, I mean, we put this in, anybody that is giving is going to get one of these, which has all the, if you want to get involved, because, I mean, $4 is a subscription-based nonprofit. Like, that's how we run, So if people aren't signing up for the $1 a month or the recurring payment, we're just getting, one-time donations, which are great. And it's like a good introduction to Dollar for Portland. But everybody gets an info card. And then honestly, signage is a lot more important than I thought. Like, I just thought you could set the DipJar there, have a couple info cards and whatever. But the more signage you can have, the more presence you can have at a business or a raffle or whatever event you're doing, it helps a ton, because people want to, like, I don't know. And then I feel like it also adds credibility to, like, what you're doing. If there's like a legitimate little, some signage around, it helps a lot. So people will come up, like last night we were at an event and the person didn't dip, but they got on their phone and signed up. So it was a interesting little thing because they had this right here, and they could sign up right there.
Cool. I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's something I haven't even thought about, honestly, Jared. It's just every person. Most people take that receipt card, but to give them something that even has that receipt info as well as organization info is great. So I think I'm going to copycat you.
Do it. They're cool.
Love to see. Share ideas. That's what we're here for. All right. My follow-up question, you guys probably touched on it in your answers already. What would be the number one thing that you would tell a new DipJar customer as advice? What's the number one tip to be successful with DipJar? We'll start with Jared on this one.
I kind of said it before, but I mean, and this is going through the filter of, like, we're always approaching businesses to help us out. It is just make it easy for them, and get creative. Like, there's so many ways that you can use DipJar, and Dollar for Portland's only really doing 2 of them, like events and getting into businesses. Make it easy. Like when I send out an email, I have a photo and a video of somebody, like, dipping their card in, and a photo, say, hey, this is what we're doing. It's new. It's awesome. It's called DipJar. And then I send them a little PDF of what these cards look like. And I say, we print up these cards. We make it super easy. We'll come in, we'll educate your staff. And I only ask for a week, like a week commitment, is all that I ask for. And I want to say probably 70% of the time, they keep them for a month because they like it. So, and it's so low impact for them that it just doesn't take a whole lot. So make it easy for the business if you're going that route.
I love it. Thank you. Clinton, anything that you would recommend?
I would definitely echo that. Just make it easy, really make it easy for people to give. Like you mentioned earlier, if you can take the thinking out of giving, people will do it. But also to be bold as an organization, as a nonprofit, because really a lot of times I think we can sell ourselves short because we have expectations of people. We have expectations of what we think they will give. And sometimes those expectations can kind of be a ceiling for us that we build our own. And so that was the biggest thing that we learned was, hey, let's be bold in our ask and just see how people respond. Because I think that we're living in a time where people want to be a part of something good. They want to be a part of something that's changing for the good. And so when you present those opportunities and you present a way that people can give easily, they're going to be willing to give beyond, most of our expectations. So be bold. If you're worried about you want two and you can only, you really only get one, I'd say get two, because you're probably going to need it. But yeah, be bold.
Awesome. I love be bold is a great piece of advice for DipJar customers, because I think there's a lot of people who might be a little stuck in their ways, or they might have one idea that they want to try, but the key is to try as many ideas as possible. Take some risks.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Awesome. My final question for you guys is kind of an interesting one. Talking to each other, what would be one piece of advice that you'd give each other, and what's one thing that you'd like to take from them? So maybe Clinton, you could start with this one.
Well, for what I would take for sure, I think his bridge to connecting people to his organization from a dip is really, really effective and smart. So that's something I want to do. Because that's something we've been trying to figure out in our head is like, these people are willing to give once, we know they'd give again, but we may not always be in front of them. So how can we continue for them giving? So definitely as far as that card that includes information. But I think Jared, one of his biggest deals, a lot of his is, and we've talked about this quite a bit. He doesn't do a whole lot of events. And so, I would love just to see how him working on events would change his funding and change kind of the direction of his organization, because it works really well for us. But I also, again, taking away from him, like we want to figure out ways to be more organic, to be more of a presence, a consistent presence in a place that has a lot of people, that we can kind of harness those donations more regularly instead of just being event focused.
Awesome. Thank you. Jared?
Yeah, I would I would say, I've been hustling around trying to get $5 donations, you know what I mean? So kind of the be bold with it and ask for more. I'm definitely gonna do that. Because you think, I always feel like if you set up 3 amounts, you have a 5, 10, and a 20. I feel like people always will go for at least the middle one, because they don't they're like, well, I don't want to give the minimum, So I think that strategy of having multiple options kind of puts the pressure on people to give a little bit more. And that would be, I think that'd be huge for us. Events, when we do events, they make more than what we're doing at the coffee shops in a day, obviously. It's just nice to have kind of like the passive donations coming in. And that would be the only thing that I would say to Clinton is like, maybe it's not at coffee shops or breweries, but some way to have stationed dip jars around the city where you can just be collecting money every day without having to throw events. I think that's like, we're so, like, as nonprofits, we're so strapped on resources and staff, and volunteers are hard to deal with. And like, there's so many little things. The more that you can get without having to do a whole lot is great. So I always try to like just be creative with how you use them and try to make it a passive donation, like just some sort of income stream that you don't have to be there all the time. Another huge one is running events, like races, 5Ks, 10Ks. Like, ask them if you can be there, or if you can have a dip jar there, and they will say yes. Like, it's pretty darn easy to get into these events. Look up, I always just go to the Portland calendar and look at what events are happening in the city already, and then just calling the organizer and saying, yo, can we just show up and have a dip jar? We've done concerts, we've done comedy shows, we've done races, it all works. So get creative with it.
Awesome.
I love it. A couple of really cool questions have just come through that I'll just answer quickly. Was one from Karen: is DipJar only for donations, or can you use it to process event tickets? So DipJar is for anything. We have people at events who sell water bottles and hoodies and t-shirts and hats, event tickets, raffle tickets. It's aimed at donations and nonprofits, but it's really a simple point of sale machine. So if you want to take it to an event and use it to sell products to raise money, that's totally fine. I mean, like we keep saying, experiment, take risks. The world is your oyster. Try as many new things as you can. And I know that Jared touched on selling raffle tickets, something that he's found to be really successful. So it works. It really works. Emily, the event ticket would only be tricky because of limited information you get back. It would be if you're using it at the door as an entrance ticket. Has been really successful for people. It not only cuts the line in half, but something fun for people to see when they get to the event. No one's seen a DipJar before. Everyone in the line hears this fun little noise as they get closer. Even at ticket sales, we've had people dip multiple times for one ticket. So ticket sales has been hugely successful at the door, and getting information hasn't been necessary for everyone. But there are other ways to get the information with online forums or asking the questions in person. As always, just experiment with what you think is the fastest and best way to do things. So that's all the questions that I've had prepared for you guys. Your answers have been above and beyond what we could have hoped for. So I appreciate you putting some time into your answers and helping everyone out here. I'm sure that everyone's going to take one little nugget of knowledge to help them improve. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, not a problem. It's my pleasure. And just to let everyone listening know, we do have a webinar discount code, which is webinar 452, which you can put into our website store, and you'll get 10% off. This is going to go all the way through to the end of the week. So one last time, thank you, both of you, for joining in.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. If we didn't get to your questions during the webinar, if you have more questions for DipJar or for Clinton or Jared, you can reach out to us, support@dipjar.com. We'll pass on any questions to them. We'll answer any questions you have that we didn't get to. We're always happy to help. Really, we just want to be here to support you guys, and Clinton and Jared are a part of that, but obviously we want to help them as well. So we're trying to create a network of nonprofits. So any ideas you guys have that you want to share, let's create a sharing system where we can just swap ideas and help each other be as successful as possible.
Yeah.
And one last question from Mary, that yes, there will be a recording of this webinar that will be put up soon. So if you missed anything from the beginning, if you want to track back over some information, maybe you'll think of a question, you can watch over that and watch it as many times as you like. All right, everyone. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in, for listening. A reminder, the discount code is webinar 452. Reach out to us if you have any more questions. I'd love to help. I'm sure Jared and Clinton would love to share their expertise as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.